We humans are facing the greatest crisis of our entire million-year existence on this planet. This is the Earth emergency. It is the direct result of compounding threats to the health of both planet and people, created by human actions over the last half-century or so. There is presently no plan by any nation or international body to tackle the Earth emergency in all its aspects. We urgently need one. Every other issue is a distraction from the mounting danger to our own survival. What we currently have is a chaotic road to avoidable disaster, driven by 10 vast interconnected threats, which are all the result of human activity. These threats have been carefully documented by science worldwide over more than 60 years. They show that the human capacity to inflict mass harm on ourselves, our health and well-being, and that of the planet as a whole, has increased exponentially since the end of World War II. Collectively, they menace the future of human civilization and certainly its health and ability to survive. They are all driven at core by the same four factors: overpopulation, overconsumption, overpollution, and money. The science is in. We've wiped out 3/4 of the world's large animals in just a few decades. Studies show that extinction rates are now more than 1,000 times above the Earth's normal level. Humans and our livestock now make up 96% of all life on land. We are destroying forests, wetlands, grasslands, and ocean life at rates never before seen, and we are creating deserts, toxic and uninhabitable regions. We are, in effect, collapsing the Earth's life support system, the very thing that keeps us alive and healthy. We're losing fresh water, topsoil, fish, forests, and other vital resources at shocking rates. Human consumption of materials is skyrocketing from 29 billion tonnes in the 1970s to 120 billion tonnes last year. All those resources come at a huge cost to our own health and well-being because of the damage and pollution they cause. There is already a world freshwater crisis affecting half the world's population. It is also a major health crisis, and it can only grow more severe. There is a crisis in our farming soils, which nobody wants to acknowledge. We are felling forests and clearing land as if there was no tomorrow, as well may be the case. We are killing large parts of the oceans. We now use an entire year's worth of renewable Earth resources every 7 months. We are poisoning everyone and everything on the planet every day, especially our children. Our chemical emissions at over 200 billion tonnes a year are our worst and biggest impact on the planet, on our health and on its health. See my talk to this conference in 2022. Human chemical emissions are 5 times larger than our climate emissions, and they kill around 14 million people a year. They are causing the loss of around 600 million years of healthy life annually. This is the worst act of preventable homicide in human history, yet no country seems to want to prevent it. The flood of chemicals, nerve poisons especially, is damaging our children's brains. This may explain why human IQ is declining worldwide and why mental diseases are pandemic, affecting 1 in 8 of all human beings. We're constructing weapons that can obliterate humanity many times over. World spending on weapons is now $2.5 trillion per year, more than a quarter of the global healthcare budget. The doomsday clock is at 89 seconds to midnight, the highest threat level since Hiroshima. Even a small nuclear war involving 50 or 100 warheads would kill about 2 billion people in the famines following the nuclear winter. All countries, including non-combatants, will experience food and health crises as a result. 2/3 of the nations of the world want nukes banned, but 1/3 of nations want to keep them. Most women want nukes banned, but men want to keep them. We are shaping a climate that will render the Earth largely uninhabitable within a few generations. Heating emissions are still rising strongly despite talk of containing them. They will take us past +2 degrees by 2050 and +4 degrees by 2100. At 3 to 4 degrees, world food and water supplies will collapse, and scientific predictions suggest that fewer than 1 billion people may survive. Humans have also triggered a number of tipping points, causing the Earth itself to yield more carbon emissions. There is no stopping these. Most frightening are the 5 trillion tonnes of methane locked into the tundra, peat swamps, and the seabed, which are now starting to vent. We're building dangerous new technologies over which society has absolutely no control. Like coal and agriculture before them, AI, robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, and global surveillance have potential to do terrible damage if used excessively or by malignant actors. At present, there is no way for society to control these monsters. They are off the leash and coming to get us. Several of them, like nanopollution and gain-of-function biotech, have dire consequences for our health and that of the planet. We currently throw away nearly half our food and we ruin the planet trying to grow more. That means half our farmers feed nobody. The present food system is not sustainable because it is destroying the very soils, water, climate, and ecology on which it depends. However, global demand for food is expected to double by the 2060s. Food security is the Achilles heel of modern civilization, something that very few governments seem to grasp. There is an urgent need to completely rethink the way we humans produce food. The world population has tripled in the last 75 years. Every year, we try to cram another 80 million people into Lifeboat Earth, and this is what is driving all the other threats. However, human fertility is declining in most countries, thanks to women. Peak population of about 10 to 11 billion could possibly be reached in the 2060s, and a slow decline follow thereafter. However, 1/3 of a billion people are now fleeing overcrowded countries into more stable ones every single year. And there are warnings that that migration may exceed 1 billion people a year if disasters and wars continue to multiply. No country can withstand such a human tsunami. Somehow, we have to get the human population back in line with what the Earth can realistically carry in the long run, or the Earth will do it for us. There have been 7 pandemics since 2000, and there is mounting concern about an 8th, the potential for transfer of avian flu to humans. All pandemics are the result of human behavior. Overpopulation, mass travel, overcrowded cities, dense gathering places like schools, sports arenas, cruise liners, theatres, and nightclubs, all are systems for spreading disease. Science also persists in trying to create more deadly viruses. Despite COVID, more than 30 such experiments are happening right now, and they are without any form of societal or ethical oversight. We are unleashing new plagues, usually from ruined ecosystems, every 2 to 3 years, and we're spreading them worldwide like wildfire. 90 new diseases have crossed from animals into people in the last 75 years, though not all of these have become pandemics. WHO warns that bigger and worse plagues than COVID are likely. Collectively, the world is doing far too little to prevent them. And we lie, constantly and continually to ourselves about all of this. The fossil fuel sector has established purpose-built lie factories, and every year spends billions of dollars poisoning the well of public information, lying and spreading confusion about climate and the environment. Other corporate sectors are copying. Media organisations that profit from spreading lies have arisen. They have discovered that misinformation is a great way to make money, because there are large audiences of people who, for whatever reason, prefer falsity to truth. And this attracts corporate advertisers, who are thus paying for the lies to be spread. All of this is polluting civil debate in democracies and autocracies alike, around the world, in media and social media, leading to widespread confusion in the population and paralysis in government. The decline in human intelligence means that more and more citizens are unable to distinguish between truth and fiction. This is undermining democracy and guaranteeing bad government. The inability to tell fiction from reality means that more and more humans are unfit for survival, because they simply do not understand what is going on or how to fix it. Instead, they repose their faith in utter nonsense. Many of these lies are aimed at undermining the very foundations of modern healthcare: vaccines, clean air and water, public health measures, and health protection. For humanity, misinformation could soon become deadly, in the long run as deadly as a nuclear war. This is a point that's insufficiently understood by governments or society at large. Now, the point I want to emphasize is that solutions to all of these mega threats exist. They are all connected, and they cannot be separated. So we have to solve them all together. Trying to solve them one at a time won't work. All of them are consequences of the sheer scale of the human enterprise: overpopulation, overconsumption, and overpollution and money are the main drivers. But we cannot solve a problem if we do not understand its causes. So sharing knowledge about this comes first. The good news is that scientific solutions to all these threats already exist. That's why I wrote How to Fix a Broken Planet, so that people will know that this complex problem is amenable to solution. Also, so people will know that there is a lot we can each do about it as individuals in our own lives, as well as members of a larger society. These threats must all be solved in ways that do not generate fresh perils or make other threats worse. We have the brains and we have the technology to save ourselves. The bad news is we do not have the governments, the leadership, or the will to do so. No government on earth has a plan for overcoming these threats to humanity's survival, as the Council for the Human Future has often warned. Most of them are not even aware that such a need exists. So poorly do they understand the messages from science over the past half-century, and so effectively have selfish interests managed to mislead, confuse, and frustrate action. In the book, I explain the scientific understanding of these risks. But more importantly, I list all the main solutions which governments, companies, and individuals like you and me can take in our own work and lives to make ours a safer, healthier, and more sustainable world. This amounts to a first draft for a world plan of action for human survival. It isn't the complete answer. No short book could provide that. And they aren't my ideas, but those of scientists worldwide who have worked and thought deeply on these issues. It is therefore an outline of what the world's wisest minds now consider we must do in order to survive. It shows that thinking and acting our way out of the biggest crisis ever to face humanity is entirely possible. Furthermore, it is positive. It encourages hope, prosperity, healing, and opportunity. Among several hundred solutions proffered by policymakers, governments, companies, groups, and individuals, here are the top dozen. They should not surprise anyone who has considered our situation objectively. An Earth System Treaty addressing all the catastrophic threats, open for everybody to sign. That's each of us. This is a legal instrument signed by nations and every willing individual that commits us all to work for a safe, healthy, and habitable planet for our children and their grandchildren. A planet where humanity lives within the rational, safe boundaries defined by science, not the dangerous and toxic world defined by greedy, uncaring enterprises. It is an agreement to work together to overcome each of the catastrophic threats that are the result of our own actions, but whose consequences now cannot be avoided. It is a pledge not to make any of these threats worse. 2, a ban on all nuclear weapons. There is already, since 2021, a UN treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. So far, 92 countries have signed it and a further 68 have ratified or agreed to it. But 70 countries, including all 9 nuclear powers, still cling to their support for potential human annihilation. This is not good for our health. Those who study the issue of nuclear weapons are agreed that if the world has them, it will use them, sooner or later. The major nuclear powers are already trying to convince themselves that limited use of nukes is possible, without escalating into a full-blown world holocaust. It is a dangerous fantasy, as the scores of nuclear mistakes made over the last few decades testify. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has set the doomsday clock at 89 seconds to midnight, its highest danger level ever, because of recent advances in nuclear technology and the growing conviction among the warrior class that they can safely be used. Quite simply, if humanity is to survive a civilization-shattering conflict during this century, then every country on Earth must agree to eliminate these weapons and all their technology. There is no intermediate position. 3, an end to the use of fossil fuels to stem both climate change and global poisoning. Leading scientists consider that humanity must end the use of all fossil fuels, that's oil, coal, gas, and tar sands, by 2030, or face an out-of-control climate. Gradual reform and slow transition will not work. Current greenhouse policies are on track to deliver an uninhabitable planet. Without such a goal, the soaring costs of climatic turbulence will destroy the world economy and kill millions every year. However, a bonus from eliminating fossil fuels is that the largest source of poisons on the planet, the one that's killing 14 million people a year, will also be eliminated. Thus, ending the use of fossil fuels is the greatest public health measure we could possibly take, greater even than supplying clean water to all. It would represent the biggest advance in human healthcare and well-being in history, and it needs to be seen in that light. Furthermore, it is entirely feasible. Clean energy, green chemistry, zero waste, green oil, hydrogen, and plant-based medicines are already available and can replace fossil fuels in most applications, whatever the dishonest oil lobby may tell you. 4, a circular world economy which wastes nothing and reuses everything is the answer to the looming scarcity of key resources. For most of our history, humans recycled our wastes, nutrients especially. In the 20th century, we forgot how. Now we must relearn. When the human population begins to shrink in the mid-century, there will never be a need to open one more mine, because all the minerals we will need will be available far more cheaply in the waste stream. We just have to extract and reuse them. It's already happening with your mobile phone or your drinking can. Now let's apply that principle to everything else. Furthermore, as we recycle more, we move our economy out of its focus on material goods and into a focus on ideas. This is known as the creative economy. Jobs shift from making things to doing things and imagining things. The human mind is inexhaustible. The creative economy uses far less energy, causes less pollution and sickness, provides greater happiness and quality of life, lifts us all out of our grubby industrial existence to a healthier, more fulfilling life. 5. Renewable food for everyone to sustain all humanity and reduce the threat of war. The renewable food revolution will be bigger and more exciting even than the renewable energy revolution. It will catch on even faster. Replacing our present unsustainable agriculture and fishing sectors, it has 3 legs. 1. Regenerative agriculture, which is basically farming that restores and cares for the environment in which it exists. 2. Urban food production, where cities recycle all their wasted nutrients and water into new foods produced locally with a range of advanced climate-proof technologies, thus largely feeding themselves. And 3, deep ocean aquaculture, the farming of sea plants and fish in huge installations on the high seas, away from the coasts, fed by nutrients from the deep. Each of these methods can provide a third of the world's food sustainably, under largely climate-proof conditions, leading to dramatic improvements in human health due to a higher proportion of fresh, nutritious food in our diet. Renewable food could be one of the largest public health measures ever undertaken in history. 6. A Stewards of the Earth plan for rewilding half the earth, run by farmers and Indigenous people. If the world implements a renewable food revolution, growing 2/3 of its food in cities or the deep oceans, we can return more than half of the land mass to nature, to forests, wetlands, grasslands, and woodlands. And that will help to end the 6th extinction of wild animals, insects, and birds. It is a complete win-win, a healthy planet for a healthy people. To manage this transition, we can make use of the skills and wisdom of 1 billion small farmers who are currently being destroyed by our industrial food system, and 500 million Indigenous people worldwide who love their land and hate seeing it destroyed by industry. Instead of wasting $2.5 trillion a year on more weapons to kill more people, we could pay these farmers and native people to repair the damage to global landscapes caused by agriculture, climate, and mindless development. This is the Stewards of the Earth idea. So let us heal the planet by putting back all the many living trees, plants, and animals we have so thoughtlessly eliminated. It too will be one of the greatest planetary health initiatives. 7, a Clean Up the Earth plan, including a new human right not to be poisoned. We need to end the mass poisoning of humanity by other humans and the horrific damage we are inflicting on the health of our species and our children. To do that, we need a world alliance of organisations dedicated to cleaning up our planet, our food supply, our air and water, our homes, and our consumer goods. Because global poisoning emissions are 5 times larger than climate emissions, we need to create an IPCC for chemicals, a global body to register, monitor, and test the safety of all 350,000 chemicals we now make, and to measure their impact on our health. Up until the 19th century, all our ancestors enjoyed a relatively clean, chemically unpolluted world. a far less toxic world. We too should have such a right. We need to introduce into the Universal Declaration of Human Rights a right not to be poisoned. Only such a right will focus our governments and corporations on their responsibility not to kill us. 8, a world population plan providing voluntary family planning for all. For the cost of half a single nuclear submarine, we could provide family planning to every family on Earth, and so end the population explosion. Family planning is entirely voluntary. No compulsion is involved. It provides the advice, contraception, and healthcare necessary for families to plan their own size. Voluntary reduction of the human population is both feasible and far preferable to a catastrophic crash caused by famines, pandemics, and wars. Wise women are already lowering their fertility everywhere. It will also be aided by the philosophy of one child fewer, as well as by the growing trend among young adults worldwide to have no children. A world pandemic plan to prevent and arrest the uncontrolled spread of disease by human behaviour. The best thing we can possibly do to prevent future pandemics is reduce the size of the human population and restore the natural world that we have ravaged. We also need to change our behaviours, the ones that are conducive to the spread of disease. This means far less mass travel, better ventilation of our buildings, less use of mass facilities where diseases are transmitted, from cruise liners to sports arenas and childminding centres. Greedy, selfish, and thoughtless people will howl at having their toys taken away. But does the right to travel, for example, include the right to kill other people by spreading disease? Humans survived for 1 million years without these things, and we can do so again, if it is a question of survival. We also need a better pandemic early warning system, and we need to stop scientists making deadly new viruses for fun or money or whatever reason. 10, we need a global technology convention to oversee all powerful new technologies before they are put to dangerous misuse. Having seen the damage caused by unconstrained fossil fuel use and unconstrained agriculture, we need to be very cautious about the potential damage caused by uncontrolled use of AI, nanotechnology, biotechnology, global surveillance, and robot killing machines, etc. These technologies cannot be controlled one by individual nations. We need a global body to oversee their development, to anticipate the harms they might cause, as well as the benefits they might bring, to recommend their regulation and how they should be used. Without this, their overuse or misuse can inflict fresh catastrophes as big as climate change on humans and on our health. The people who develop new technologies always talk about the benefits, never about the dangers. In other words, they lie by omission. We need a world oversight body that does look at these things and that tells us the truth about the dangers they may hold in good time to act. We also need a World Truth Commission to expose the liars and their lies to public shame. Throughout history, one of the most effective ways to control rascals has been public exposure and shaming. With the spread of information now crippling government and endangering our future and our health, we need a world body to expose the liars and the wrongdoers. A World Truth Commission would be a body charged with fact-checking the more outrageous claims of politicians, billionaires, corporations, and other people in power, and exposing those who abuse their position by misleading the public. We need a world body that tells us which websites, corporates, media, or organisations can be trusted and which cannot, based on their public statements and their behaviour. Individuals don't have the time or skills to do this on their own, but it is an essential role in protecting the public health and good governance. 12. An Earth standard currency to try to correct the rape of our planet by an infinite supply of otherwise non-existent money. The problem with our present economic system is that money is imaginary. It does not exist outside the human mind. We have an infinite supply of money on a finite planet, which means that we will run out of planet long before we run out of money. An Earth standard currency is not based on the say-so of governments, central banks, or the wild gambles of money marketers. It is based on scientific measurement of all the things the Earth uses to support life. A breathable atmosphere, healthy oceans and forests, a clean environment, and so on. It is far more trustworthy and valuable as an exchange method than our present system. Its value will go up as our management of the planet improves, and down as we damage the Earth, its health and its ability to support life. It makes every single one of us an investor in a safe, healthy, sustainable planet. There are many other actions that must be taken to improve the health of both the planet and people. The best of them are outlined in How to Fix a Broken Planet. But at the heart of this is the Earth System Treaty, which I mentioned, a legal compact by the world's people which commits all those who sign it to working for a habitable Earth and a healthier human future by addressing all of the major risks. The treaty would also commit us to living within the safe planetary boundaries defined by Johan Rockström and his colleagues. The answers to the human emergency do not lie in business as usual, in government procrastination, in the corruption of public discourse, the poisoning or overheating of an entire planet, or in the destruction of nature. They lie in employing the chief attribute which has assured human survival over 1 million years: wisdom. This is the ability to read the future and take action in good time to achieve a better, safer, healthier outcome. Self-evidently, the world's governments, intent on the rivalries of yesterday, are not interested in this or able to achieve it. Instead, it must be driven by the wishes and the concerns of all humanity united in a desire for its grandchildren to survive on a world that hasn't been reduced to a charred ruin by human negligence and greed. By 2030, all 9 billion of us will be online. We can, for the first time in our history, join minds across an entire planet to secure our future. We can think together as a species, share ideas for what has to be done. Saving our common future will be, without a doubt, the greatest and noblest undertaking in the long ascent of human aspiration and achievement. It is a task worthy of us all, and which cannot be completed without the cooperation of all. I urge you, implore you, to get behind it. The Earth is a lifeboat, sinking under the pressures of overcrowding, limited resources, and fearsome demand. We can either row it together to safety, or we can go down together. The choice is stark, and it is now before us. So, if you want a healthy planet and better personal health, the scientific advice is readily available.